Welcome to Into the Words, a podcast from the Highlights Foundation Retreat Center. Today in the cabin is our dear friend Jennifer Swanson. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hello, it's nice to be here.
So glad to have you here for the nuts and bolts of science writing. Tell us a little bit about your experience here this week, but maybe before you do, tell us a little bit about your history with the nuts and bolts of science.
Well, I'm excited to say this is our 5th year of doing this. And it's been amazing, as always. Every year is a different mix of attendees, and we never really know what we're going to get, but they're always amazing. This group is actually fairly widely published in professional articles and all that kind of stuff, but some years we've had a whole bunch of picture book writers, and we actually have more technical people this year, which is yay for us STEM people that are interested in technology and engineering like me. But it's been a really fun week. I think everybody learns a lot, and we learn so much from our attendees too.
And tell me, you've done a couple of lectures in the past couple of days. Can you give me, what's the title of the one or some little snippet of topic?
Well, of course, since this is a science writing, so I always kick it off every year with my steaming into nonfiction, right? Which, of course, I'm not the first one to say that. But I kind of have something that goes along with each one of the letters for STEAM. And the one that I like to start with is select a topic that stands out. And most people say, I love science, and that's great. But if you want to have a trade book, you have to come up with a really amazing hook for it. It has to be something that everybody will like, even people maybe that aren't interested in science. So what I encourage people to do is if you come up with something that you're really excited about, like trees or, how the leaves change colors, turn that topic sideways and okay, so maybe we're talking about how the trees change colors, but maybe what specific time of the year happens across the country that makes them change the colors. So that's a different way of looking at it, instead of just the science of them changing colors. Or on the very microscopic level, the science of them changing colors. And what about two trees that are next to each other? Do they change colors? The leaves change the colors the same rate? You see how all of a sudden you're just twisted that topic just a little bit, and that makes it that much more interesting. And then the other thing is think like a kid. That's what I do for my books. I think, what would a kid ask about that? And they ask the most amazing questions. So you never know what just play with it. Have fun.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So I was going to ask you, but I don't know. Have you had any time to do any of your own work while you're here?
Well, I've been doing edits. Are my editors listening? So yes, I've been doing edits on a couple of projects. But the one thing that we've had this time is we've taken a bunch of really long nature walks, which was amazing because one of the other faculty is Heather Montgomery, who is a big nature lover and environmental enthusiast and expert, actually. So she's been taking us along the creek here and the river and showing us all the different things and the little bugs and the frogs and everything. So that kind of adds a whole depth to this workshop that you're just not going to get anywhere else but here at Highlights because of this beautiful place that they have. So yeah, I've done some work, but I'm trying to relax and enjoy this place.
All right, fair enough. And what are you working on in your writing right now? Do you have any projects you could tell us about?
Okay, so most of them are not ones that I can talk about, but I am finishing up. I just finished up final edits for a book I have coming out this fall called Save the Crash Test Dummies. It's with Peachtree Publishing, and it's the history of car safety engineering. And it's told kind of along with part of my narrator is an actual crash test dummy. Mm-hmm. So it's done so well. This is the first time I have a book with an amazing illustrator. This is Tamika Grooms, and she's done a fabulous job. I just finished up, or I'm still working on edits for another book I have called Spies, Lies, Disguise, The Daring Tricks and Deeds That Won World War II. And that's with Bloomsbury, yeah. And that one's not all sciencey, it's more history. And that comes from my being in the Navy, my military background. And but the illustrator for that is, of course, Kevin O'Malley, who is fantastic. So I've been working on those 2 projects. And then a couple more, which you'll hear about when I'm allowed to announce them.
So you said this one's more history. Is there any difference in your research when you're doing the history versus science piece?
So a lot of my science books are more tech oriented. So for those, I actually do a lot of talking to university professors and people in, the actual industry where they're working with the material science or whatever technology. Of course, for World War II, a lot of my research came from the Imperial War Museum in London. So, which I was actually lucky enough to travel to do some. That's always cool, right? Like, hey, I get to go to London to do research. And, oh, by the way, I can write it off. So that was really amazing. And then the other thing we got to go to, my husband went with me, is we went to the National Archives in Baltimore. And that was, for us, that was amazing to hold the actual operation, the manuals of the, the different military operations in your hand. And for us to think that this was held by Admiral Nimitz, and General Eisenhower. We were so excited. So that was a lot of fun.
Do you have a process of research or a practice?
So again, it depends on what I'm researching. So a lot of my technology and engineering based books, I just do a lot of the research on the web. Clearly I'm using sources that are legitimate. And then one of the things that I do is I work a lot with experts, like real live people, like scientists and engineers who I find through usually universities, or I did this book called Astronaut Aquanaut, How Space Science and Sea Science Interact. And I learned about Aquarius, which is the only underwater research lab in the world. And so I Googled Aquarius and I found out one of the big aquanauts that work there is Dr. Brian Helmuth. So you just kind of like go backwards and figure out where I can find him. And oh, look, he's at Northeastern University and he has an email. So I just sent him an email, introduced myself and said, would you be willing to be interviewed? And Dr. Helmuth was fantastic. And not only was he willing to be interviewed, he ended up being the expert on the book. And he put me in touch with other aquanauts and he was very, very helpful.
So one led to the other.
Yeah, and if you're used to doing research, that's kind of what happens, is one leads to another, to another, to another, to another. Hopefully it doesn't end in a dead end. Sometimes it does, and then you just backtrack and you take the other route. But it's a puzzle.
And how did you conduct the interview? Do you record that or taking notes while you speak?
So it depends. I initially ask them for an email. Like I will send them questions in an email because I'm very aware that these people are professors and have day jobs, so to speak. If they want to do a phone interview, sometimes I need to do a phone interview, then yeah, I do a phone interview. There's a billion apps you can get on your cell phone to interview people. But here's the thing. Always remember first of all, I tell them on the phone, is it okay if I interview you? They say yes. But after you push record, say while it's recording, this is Jennifer Swanson. I'm interviewing George Brown on this, for this date. Do you agree to be recorded? And the person needs to say yes. Uh-huh. You need to have that part on your recording to, kind of just make it all legal and nice and everything. So yeah, we'll do that sometimes. Occasionally I get to meet them in person, which is really fun because then they take me around their lab, which is just
get to geek out.
Pretty much. That's me geeking out and being big fangirl. I was like, oh wow, a real marine science lab.
Now, when you and I spoke on the phone a couple of months ago, you had just received an honor for, was it Astronaut Declan?
Yes, Astronaut Aquanaut won a Florida Book Award. Yes. So I was really excited because it's a middle grade science book and science books don't always win awards. But the best part is they gave me a medal.
All right.
And I get to wear my medal. So on days, my friend said, on days when you're not having a good day, you just put your medal on, you wear it around the house, right?
And it works.
And it works.
So you've told us a little bit about your different research and kind of how you approach that. Do you have a daily writing practice?
No. I know, everyone's like, you should. I basically work all the time. I have it used to be that I was writing 6 to 8 books a year. I've kind of dialed that back some, but on the other hand, some of those books that I was writing are now much larger projects. So pretty much for me, whoever has the quickest deadline is the thing that I focus on. So my typical day is get up, have breakfast. By like 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'm in the writing chair, and my dogs know that, so they're already in the office waiting for me to come in. And I work pretty much, straight through, other than walking the dogs and letting them out 15,000 times, until about 5:30. Now, if there's a rare day where I've met all my deadlines, sometimes I don't write at all. But that's fairly rare. And I'll usually try not to write on Saturday, but I will almost always write something on Sunday. If all I'm doing is answering emails to catch up. So yeah, I need to figure out how to relax a little more.
But it sounds like you are pretty...
I'm pretty disciplined,
in your work habit of writing.
I am.
So one of the things we like to talk about at the Highlights Foundation is this idea of community and mentorship. And you mentioned to me yesterday that you were going out to lunch with Clara.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about...
So Clara Gillow Clark is my dear, dear friend and mentor. I met her, oh my gosh. I think I started taking classes through the Institute of Children's Literature 2006, 2007, and Clara was my instructor for 2 of the classes. And we've just been friends ever since. But the first time I met her in person was when I came here to Highlights. And that was amazing. And she was kind of instrumental in getting here because she encouraged me to submit, a workshop idea for you guys for a science writing thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I good enough to teach there? And I was so excited when you guys accepted. Your father, Kent, sent me an email. Or actually, I think he called me. And that was a really amazing day, the first year that I knew that I was coming here to teach. But Clara has been there. She's read pretty much every single piece of writing I have ever written. And she is so supportive, but she's also critical. You know what I mean? So she doesn't just say, oh, it's amazing. If it's not amazing, she tells me how to fix it. But yeah, I treasure her very greatly. And, I hope that maybe I can be a mentor to some other writers along the way she has done for me, because it's made the whole career worthwhile.
And that's an important piece, that mentorship needs to have that critical feedback too, not
just
full cheerleading.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, she has said, yeah, you need to fix this. And I'm like, okay. But that's all right, That's what you need, someone who will tell you the truth. Well,
I'm glad that Clara encouraged you to submit.
Well, thanks. Me too. It's been great. I've really enjoyed it.
Fun that she's been able to come and take you out and go for lunch today.
Yes.
It's nice having her living in the neighborhood.
It is.
We were talking a little bit before about your blog and some podcasting you do.
Yes, so I'm excited. I have a blog that I created with a bunch of my friends called STEM Tuesday. And it is basically, it brings attention to middle grade and YA STEM books. Because I think they're sometimes lost in the reviewers and whatever. And so I just got this crazy idea, and I contacted a bunch of my other STEM author friends. And I said, hey, should we do this blog? And they were all like, sure. So we just added a whole new a whole new group of people to our team. But our original team, it was Patricia Newman and Nancy Castaldo. Let's see, Carolyn DeCristofano, Mary Kay Carson, Heather Montgomery, who is here with me at the nuts and bolts of science writing, Mike Hayes, and we had Jody Wheeler-Toppin, and she's part of it. And then we had, like I said, we have a whole new group, which I will not remember everybody's name. But basically, it's set up for teachers and homeschoolers. So the first week is all about a book list. Well, let me back up. I'm sorry. We'll do a topic a month. So this month's topic for June is chemistry rocks. Cool. So the whole first week on Tuesday is a list of chemistry books, in middle grade chemistry books. The second week covers kind of activities that teachers can use in their classroom. And some of them you can do in the English classroom, not just the science classroom. They cross over to history class. The third week is sometimes a focus on craft. So it can be craft for writers. Heather sometimes does blogs about her process, like research or whatever. But it's also interesting for students to see how, peek into the mind of a science writer. And then the last week is an interview with an author from one of the books. And we do a giveaway. So if you want to be entered in our giveaway, all you have to do is put your name at the bottom of the fourth week as a comment. And you could win the book. And believe it or not, we usually have like 8 or 9 people that do that every month. And sometimes it's the same 8 or 9 people. And
what are you giving away?
We give away a copy, an autographed copy of the book. So it comes directly from the author. So STEM Tuesday started as a blog. We're coming up on our 2-year anniversary. And then for the last, almost a year, I've been doing podcasts through the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Which is done by Jed Doherty, and it's so much fun. And we do monthly podcasts there about STEM Tuesday so that all of his listeners can have access to that and hopefully find us. If you want to look for us, we are www.stemtuesday.com. We are hosted by the From the Mixed Up Files blog. But we're having tons of fun with it. Cool. And hopefully we're getting kids and teachers excited about using STEM books in their classroom. And we're making it, we're also making it easier for them to use STEM books in their classroom, which is the benefits everybody, I think.
Right. How do we get books into kids' hands?
Yes. And get them excited about stuff. And, and this all came about because I did a lot of school visits where teachers would say, I love your books. I would love to be able to use them in the classroom. I just don't have time because curriculums are so overloaded. And I said, we can fix that. Like, you just go to our website and it's all right there for you. So it's been a lot of fun and it's doing really well.
Cool. Any other projects or things you're working on or thinking about?
I always have many, many projects. We just finished, as you know, that we did a nonfiction writers conference. It was called the Beachside Nonfiction Retreat in May of 2019. It went over very well. We're very excited. We'll probably do that again in 2021. And then in conjunction with that, because as my one friend says, I have so much free time, I started a literacy nonprofit in my own town in Jacksonville, Florida. It's called Kid Literacy, Inc., and what we're trying to do is raise money to bring authors and illustrators into schools that can't afford it. And then what we do is we give the schools $500 worth of books. So they not only get free school visits, and I'm happy to say we were able to bring in 6 authors in our first time.
Fantastic.
So yeah, we're really excited about that. We're just starting in Jacksonville, Florida area where I live, Northeast Florida. Everybody keeps saying expand. Well, yes, we would like to, but as you will know, that depends on donations. Little bit at a time too. Also, we have a very small staff at the moment. So, but we're hoping that it's going to go do big things.
Fantastic.
So, thanks.
Well, thank you. Last question before we head back to the
Sure.
barn. We love books. You
Yes.
love books, and I wonder if there's a book that you read recently that stands out that you can think of, or one that you're looking forward to reading.
Oh, wow. There are so many. The one I have to say, and, this is a little plug for one of us here, is I saw Miranda Paul and Jason Chin's 9 Months book. It's a picture book. And I actually saw the illustrations for this way before because I was at a conference with Jason Chin and he showed me this is a beautiful book, and it's already, I think it just won an award, and it just came out. So it covers the whole bit part of pregnancy in such a beautiful way. So if you are a family who's expecting and you're trying to explain this, I wish I would have had this to explain to my kids, like my son when my daughter was being born, or my, the other two when the third one was being born. It's a beautiful book. So I would highly recommend that one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jennifer, for joining us on Into the Words at the Highlights Foundation Retreat Center. We are dedicated to continuing our 35-year history of providing the space, the conversations, and the nurturing that goes into making great stories for children. Thank you for everything you do to support the Highlights Foundation. But more importantly, thank you for what you do to support that belief that children are the world's most important people.
Oh, I love that. Yes, I'm honored to be here. And if you haven't been to Highlights, I just say come. It's fun. It's a nice, relaxing place to be.
Thank you.
Yes.